Welcome back to Network Africa on Channels Television. Well, we're joined live from Johannesburg by the Voice of America's Anita Powell. Anita, great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Now, can you fill us in on the latest on the summit?
Well, that's a great question, Cynthia. I wish I knew. For 2 days now, the leaders have been locked up behind closed doors discussing, we imagine, any number of issues from the crisis, as you mentioned, in South Sudan, the political crisis in Burundi, and also, as you well know, the arrival of the Sudanese president in Johannesburg.
Now, speaking of that, that is basically my next question. How has both his presence and departure affected the summit, even though you've been outside for 2 days, like you said?
I would say this is the defining thing that's happened in this year's summit, which some people might say is unfortunate because there are a lot of important issues to discuss. But, for example, his arrival allegedly had the leaders pent up in the fifth floor discussing what to do. This delayed the opening ceremony by 4 or 5 hours probably, and everything has been pushed back significantly because apparently the heads of state were discussing what to do about this situation. So it's really dominated events here in Johannesburg this week.
Now, just if I let you go, Anita, would you say that the case of Omar al-Bashir, President al-Bashir, I should say, would you say that's been the highlight of this year's summit?
So I don't think that the international organizations calling for his arrest would say that it's a highlight, possibly a low light. It's taken away a lot of attention. It's been pretty much the only thing that we've been asking officials about, because a lot of the discussions about women's empowerment, about the assorted political and violent crises in the continent have been overshadowed by this. So yeah, it's definitely been the dominating force in the summit, but I think a lot of critics would say there are other more important things that Africa should be talking about.
Indeed. Well, Anita, thank you very much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anita Powell with the Voice of America reporting from Johannesburg. Now, as the war against terror continues in various parts of the world, another significant victory has been recorded as a veteran Islamist militant blamed for a deadly attack on an Algerian gas field and who ran smuggling routes across North Africa has been killed in a U.S. airstrike inside of Libya. Libya's recognized government has confirmed the development, saying the strike had killed Mokhtar Ben-Mokhtar, who became a major figure in insurgencies across North Africa and the Saharan border region and was dubbed the Uncatchable by the French military. The recognized Libyan government did not mention if other militant leaders who were present at the time of the airstrike were killed.
Ben-Mokhtar has been reported killed several times, including in 2013 when he was believed to have died in fighting in Mali. He has earned a reputation as one of the most elusive jihadi leaders in the region. If confirmed, the death of Ben-Mokhtar, who is blamed for orchestrating the 2013 attack on Algeria's In Amenas gas field, in which 40 oil workers died, and for several foreign kidnappings, it will be a major strike against Al-Qaeda-tied groups in the region. Once associated with Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb's Algerian leadership, Ben-Mokhtar broke from the group but remained tied to Al-Qaeda's central leadership even after forming his own group, those who sign in blood. The one-eyed veteran of Afghanistan and Algeria's own 1990s Islamist war had long been a major figure in Saharan smuggling, hostage-taking, arms trafficking and insurgencies, including the conflict in Mali. Linked to a string of kidnappings of foreigners in North Africa in the past decade, Ben-Mokhtar, who was born in Algeria in 1972, earned a reputation as one of the most important gangster jihadists of the Sahara. He also gained prominence as a supplier of arms to Islamist groups and as a trafficker of cigarettes, which gained him the nickname Mr. Marlboro among the local population in the Sahara. Since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011 and Libya's slide into chaos and fighting between two rival governments, The North African state has seen the rise of Islamist militant groups which have taken advantage of the turmoil. Some are allied with Al-Qaeda's leadership, others have local loyalties, and some have recently declared allegiance with Islamic State, which has been gaining ground.
Well, indeed, it appears to be a season of victories against leaders of various terrorist groups, as Kenya's army has killed a regional commander from Somalia's Al-shabaab group and possibly also a Briton who joined the militants in fighting over the weekend. Officials confirmed 11 Somali militants and 2 Kenyan soldiers were killed when Al-Qaeda-linked Al-shabaab fighters attacked a military base in Kenya's northern coastal region of Lamu County. According to Kenya Defense Forces spokesman, that's Colonel David Obonyo, among those killed was Al-Shabaab's Lukman Osman Issa, also known as Shirwa, and blamed for leading attacks on Kenya's Mpeketoni area a year ago, in which 65 people were killed. We have joining us from the Kenya capital, Nairobi, the Voice of America's Gabe Joselow. Gabe, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Cynthia.
What more can you tell us about this killing of the Al-Shabaab commander?
Well, as mentioned, this was a commander that was wanted for his role in an attack in the same county exactly 1 year ago today. So it appears that Al-Shabaab was trying to possibly mark this anniversary themselves by attacking a police station in Lamu, and instead it looks like the Kenyan security forces repelled the attackers. We also found out that in the time since the attack yesterday, Kenyan forces claim that they killed 4 more Al-Shabaab militants who they had pursued into a sort of a forested area near the scene of the attack. So for Kenyan security, this is seen as a pretty big victory, and they caught a pretty big fish.
Indeed, it's a big victory for the Kenyan security. But how are Kenyans, ordinary Kenyans, reacting to this news?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, because this came on the anniversary, people were already in a kind of state of remembrance, getting ready to memorialize those who had died before. So this attack certainly, sparks those memories again and reminds Kenyans that there always is a risk of attack from Al-Shabaab, and that no matter how much Kenyan security forces talk about trying to stay on high alert and trying to protect people, these militants have a way of staging attacks. But as I said before, people are happy that at least this attack was not any worse.
Well, speaking of risks, Gabe, there are chances of a reprisal, no matter how small. Are you seeing any increase in security in the event that something happens?
Well, Kenyan officials are warning that attacks could intensify during the holy month of Ramadan, which begins this week. Al-Shabaab has typically intensified its attacks during that period, both in Somalia as well as in Kenya. So there is certainly an awareness. There are public warnings going out, and the security forces say that they are on high alert, that they are increasing their presence in areas that are particularly prone to attack. But anything could happen, and I think Kenyans are acutely aware of that.
Well, Gabe, thank you very much. As always, we're glad to have you join us on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Voice of America's Gabe Joselow reporting from Nairobi. Now to other matters. Just this morning, hundreds of migrants brought to Italy after being rescued at sea continued to be blocked at a train and coach station in Rome and Milan after leaving immigration centers to try to reach northern Europe. Mostly Eritrean, Ethiopian, and Somali migrants have found temporary shelter in the Borbab holding center near Rome's Tiburtina station. Migrants often head north after landing in boats on Italy's southern shores, hoping to make it to Germany or Scandinavian countries with stronger economies and generous welfare benefits. And on that note, we'd like to throw out our question for the day. Now, we just want to ask you what your thoughts are on President Omar al-Bashir's leaving South Africa today. You can send us your feedback either via email or Twitter. The address and handle are right there on your screen. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. As always, it's been a pleasure. I'm Cynthia Are.